भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवांसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। अन्यपिप्पलं स्वाद्वत्ति अनश्नन्नन्यो अभिचाकशीति समाने वृक्षे पुरुषो निमग्नः अनीशया शोचति मुह्यमानः जुष्टं यदा पश्यत्यन्यमीशम् अस्य महिमानमिति वीतशोकः यदा पश्यते रुक्मवर्णं कर्तारमीशं पुरुषं ब्रह्मयोनिं तदा विद्वान् पुण्यपापे विदूय निरञ्जनः परमं साम्यमुपैति प्राणो ह्येष यः सर्वभूतैर्विभाति विजानन् विद्वान् भवतेनातिवादी आत्मक्रीडः आत्मरतिः क्रियावान् एष ब्रह्मविदां वरिष्ठः सत्येन लभ्यस्तपसा येष आत्मा सम्यक् ज्ञानेन ब्रह्मचर्येण नित्यम् अन्तःशरीरे ज्योतिर्मयो हि शुभ्रः यं पश्यन्ति यतयः क्षीणदोषाः सत्यमेव जयते नानृतम् सत्येन पन्था विततो देवयानः येनाक्रमन्दृशयो यात्तकामाः यत्र तत् सत्यस्य परमं निदानं बृहच्च तद्दिव्यमचिन्त्यरूपं सूक्ष्माच्च तत्सूक्ष्मतरं विभाति दूरात् सुदूरे तदिहान्तिके च पश्यत्स्विहैव निहितं गुहायां पश्यत्स्विहैव निहितं गुहायाम्. We have chanted the portions covered so far in section 1 of chapter 3. And before we start into the session proper, I would like to suggest few things. Now, those who are regular members of this satsanga, that is Meera Satsanga, only they will ask the questions in case they have, and contributions if they have understood something out of it. Those who are new to this or not acquainted with the system that we are following, for them it is only Shravana Sadhana. They will only listen to the talk and the discussions that follow, so that we don't have to answer some basic preliminary questions and we can proceed on our portions. They will listen to it carefully, and in case they have some questions, of course, before they have questions, I expect them to have the copy of the book that we are following. It is Mundaka Upanishad with commentary by Swami Chinmayananda. They must have that copy. They must be reading, preparing, and then listening to the talk and the discussion that will follow. So with all this, in case they have questions, then they can always ask and participate in the class. Otherwise, the rest, others will only listen to this. This also is a sadhana, Shravana sadhana. And in case they have questions, may not be directly based on the text proper, but related to the topic that we have discussed. They can ask or raise these questions in our Swasthya Sadhana WhatsApp group. There I will try to answer their questions, but not in this session, because those questions may not be directly concerned with the text proper. So only those regular members of this class, they can, of course, participate and in the participation in terms of their contribution or question. Now coming back to our portions, we were on the 7th mantra, and last time we have covered the 3 important terms. If you go back to the text proper, the 7th mantra, Brihat, first term, Tat, Divyam, Achintya Rupam. These we have already discussed earlier. Now we were last time with 3 terms. Sukshmachatat Sukshmataram Vibhati. This is one. Then second one is Durat Sudure. This is second. Tat Iha Antikecha is the third one. So we have seen these 3 aspects of the reality of Brahman. First aspect is it is subtler than the subtlest. Sukshmachatat Sukshmataram. Here Sukshma and Sukshmataram indicate that it is subtler than the subtle. But since Swamiji has commented as subtler than the subtlest, we have also tried to connect to that. The second one is Durat Sudure, the farther than the farthest. This was the second one. And lastly, Tat Iha Antikecha. Here in this very body also it is there. And this portion we have so far last time covered. Now, our attempt after discussing, our discussions are based on Swamiji's commentary in English. Swamiji very seldom refers to Sanskrit terms. In his public talks of Gita Jnana Yajna, very seldom or almost not, he does not refer Sanskrit terms. He talks purely in English. And in his books, sometimes it is in italics spelled. Those words, Sanskrit words are spelled. Now that being the case, and our discussions are mainly based on his commentary, we have in our attempt, we have to deliberately fall back to the main text proper and see where we stand exactly. We have to correlate Swamiji's commentary with the original words in the text or mantra and then understand. So this, in short, we will have a quick sweep on these because these are almost concluding in this section. These are the quotes that the Rishi gives, the teacher in this Upanishad. He gives a quote from Rigveda, and they are the mantra number 7 and 8. Now with this section will be will continue, but these are the shlokas that basically it was that we are following. The 7th one, the first term was Brihat. Brihat means the big, and this is the name Brahman is coined from this term, this word. Bruhattamatvat Brahma. that which is the big. When you say the big, there is nothing bigger than that. And if you have something like biggest, then this is bigger than the biggest. So this is Bruhat. But then this term is also to some extent applicable to next two levels. So here Bruhatcha, when it is said Bruhat, the first it is applicable to the absolute existence as Parabrahma, which is one without a second. And the next one is applicable to what is technically called as Shabala Brahma, or when the Maya becomes apparent or manifest in Brahman as knowledge, and then it becomes Satchidatma, and this is termed otherwise as Paramatma. This is the second level for which also the Brahat is applicable. Swamiji has used these two terms. One is the great and another is the vast. So this great term is used for this Paramatma, and the vast term is next. So that is when from this Paramatma, which is the starting point for the creation, the first Sankalpa arises. So when the first Sankalpa arises, this Sankalpa is the outcome or the third thing that comes out of Sat and Chit, or existence and knowledge, or is Paramatma, Satchidatma. So like from two things, when they come together, the third thing appears to exist. For example, you know it, the example very well. The example is of a garland. When the flowers are strung by a thread, then we call it a garland. Now when flower and thread come together, flowers and thread come together, it has a form for which we are given a name. But if you really think over, there is nothing like garland. Garland doesn't exist. What exists in reality is thread and flowers. They are strung together. So this idea, if you ask someone, where is the garland? And wherever he points out, he is either pointing out a flower or a thread. But there is nothing other than this flower and thread that we can call it a garland. Therefore, garland is not an independent something, but it is an appearance based on Sat and the thread and the flowers coming together. If this is appreciated, or you can take the another example of like building material, when the bricks, the cement, and all such material come together, a wall is formed. Now, if you ask where is the wall, wherever we are pointing out the wall, it is only the building material. There is nothing separate like wall. So similarly here also, when Sat, the existence, and Chit, the pure knowledge, when they come together, out of this, the Sankalpa or the thought comes out. Now this thought is mithya. It is apparent. It is not real. In the thought, there is either the existence or the consciousness. So this thought or sankalpa is the third level, for which it is indicated by the term vast. This sankalpa, which we call it as Brahmaji, etc., is technically called as Prakrita Brahma. First we have got Brahman alone, so Parabrahma, absolute existence. One step down, the knowledge or Maya aspect manifest in existence, then it becomes the Sat Chit Paramatma or Atma. This is the first level. This is called as Shabala Brahma. Shabala is a spot. In a clean thing, one spot, gives something like an impurity, sense of impurity. So Maya is a Shabala, which is like a spot for otherwise absolute existence. So this is the first appearance of Maya in the form of pure knowledge. Then with these two together, existence and consciousness, rises the thought. This thought has these two concerns, Maya and Brahma. When Maya and Brahma come together, out of that, the third thing, which is Mithya, like a garland. It is either Maya, Brahma together, but there is never a separate thing like Sankalpa or a thought. So the thought has a form, which gives the indication of existence. A form exists, and the content of the thought, the thought becomes perceptible because it is illumined. So the consciousness aspect illumines, and the existence aspect gives a relative existence to the thought. So now this Maya aspect is one, and existence aspect, Brahman aspect is another aspect. When they come together, out of that a third thing like thought appears. So there Vidya and existence, Vidya, Maya and existence come together and give rise to a Sankalpa. This is the main Sankalpa from which the entire creation starts. But even at the first Sankalpa, there is no slip at all. And the word Brahat is applicable even to that, the vast. The big, the great, and the vast. Parabrahma, Brahma Maya or Jnanamaya Brahma. And third one is Sankalpa. When the first thought rises, still thought is not apart from consciousness. The thought cannot be apart from existence consciousness. Thought exists, so this relative existence is due to absolute existence. And that there is the thought, I am conscious of the thought itself means the thought is illuminating. Therefore, this Sat and Chit aspect as Paramatma is self-effulgent being. This is the second level. After Brahman, Parabrahman, this is the second level as Paramatma, which is self-effulgent being. Existence, consciousness, being. Second level, Paramatma. And the third level is when these two come together, out of this, then apparent Sankalpa also comes to exist. This Sankalpa doesn't stand independent of this Sat and Chit. Since it doesn't stand independently on its own, it cannot have a reality. And it depends upon its existence on Sat and Chit. So it's totally dependent upon that. Therefore, it is not apart from Sat and Chit. Therefore, it is also considered as Brahma, now technically called as Prakrita Brahma. Prakrita because the Prakriti, Trigunatmika Prakriti has come, and this Sankalpa is Satvika Sankalpa. Ekoham, a Satvika Sankalpa. So Sattva Guna Pradhana Prakriti appears here along with Sat and Chit. Therefore, even with this also, the Brahman retains its existence, its reality, etc. It is still considered as not really conditioned. So these three levels are given indicated by the term Brahat. Swamiji has referred to it immediately as the great and the vast, because the Parabrahman we cannot talk about. Parabrahman is the one absolute existence, one without a second. So there is no second fellow to talk about it. I become Brahman. I cannot talk about Brahman. So this sense, this being the sense, the Brahat Brahma is immediately applicable with reference to the context to the Paramatma, that is great or vast. The terms, English terms are not that important to equate it to technical terms. Mahat is the term used for the third level where Sankalpa rises. Mahat is total intelligence. And in this total intelligence, the thought or Sankalpa rises. So this level is also considered or included in the term Brahat. Now when you say Divyam, a Divyam is really describing the Paramatma, or you can say the Satchidatma level is described by Divyam, because here the accent is to the knowledge aspect rather than Brahman, because we have already seen that it is the reflection of Brahman in Maya with which the Maya works further for the creation. So here Brahman as a reflection in Maya and Maya herself together is called as Divyam. So Divyam itself means in our discussions we have used the term the objectless infinite awareness. Then Achintya Rupam goes to Sankalpa aspect that we have said, the third level. The Achintya, we really cannot think of the Sankalpa of the Parameshwara. The Parameshwara term we are using for the third level. Parabrahma, Paramatma, Parameshwara. All these three are Bruhat, Divyam, and Achintya Rupam. We have related the first three words to these three levels. And all the three are really great, vast, where we cannot think of it. The individual cannot think of that immediately. Because of his limitations of understanding, because of the limitations of equipments of body, mind, intellect, he is confined to that small size name and form, and that name and form cannot think of that vast or great, as even the wave cannot think of ocean. Wave is so small little thing, the next few waves will obstruct her vision of the ocean. So it is not at all possible for the individual wave to know the vastness of the ocean. Similarly, here also, it is not possible for the individual to think of Parameshwara in all its dimensions. So this, therefore, considered as Achintya Rupam. That vastness that is gathered by the Sankalpa, it is so vast, it is so, you can say, it is surviving so for ages together. Our Sankalpas do not last for a minute or two, like our dreams, which are short, whereas the Sankalpa of Parameshwara is going on for ages together, and the creation is on and on. That's the difference. So for us, it is very difficult to imagine this Sankalpa of Parameshwara. So Parabrahma, Paramatma and Parameshwara are the three levels we have seen. In these terms, Bruhat Cha Tat. Tat is the pronoun always indicating Brahman. Tat Brahma. Tat Brahma Nishkalamaham. So Tat is the pronoun indicating Brahman. So Tat Brahma Bruhat Divyam Achintya Rupam. Bruhat is the vast. The next is Achintya Rupam, Sankalpa aspect, great. Because this Sankalpa rises in total intelligence. Total intelligence is the effulgence of the Atma or Satchidatma. So this in this effulgence, like a wave rising in the ocean, similarly a Sankalpa rises in the total vast consciousness. So these are the first three levels. Then we came to the discussion which we had last time. Sukshmacha tat sukshmataram. It is subtler than the subtlest, and we have spent enough sessions to discuss on these three terms. Yes, last time only we revised those portions. So it is subtler than the subtlest, and we carried out how it is subtle, what is subtle, the object, gross object, the body is gross, the thought is subtle, the consciousness is subtler, etc. So we have seen that. Then we have also seen the Dura Sudure, the farther than the farthest. So in the inner world, when we start thinking, contemplating upon my inner world about that, then it is considered as subtler than the subtlest. When I consider my outer world of objects, then it is considered as the farther than the farthest. Meaning, the consciousness is ever present, all pervasive, whether in the outer world or in the inner world. So, Sukshmacha tat sukshmataram vibhati. Vibhati, it shines. The consciousness ever shines. Whether it illumines the world of objects outside or it illumines the object, the world of emotions and thoughts inside, it all shines. And when it shines, then I am able to be conscious of the world of objects, emotions, and thoughts. So the BMI chart is already there. Can always refer now and then. This is Swamiji's greatest gift to the seekers, that all his studies have been summarized into this chart, popularly known as BMI chart, otherwise Chinmaya chart. So in this we can consider that outer world of objects and inner world of emotions and thoughts are all illumined by this vibhati. It shines. All this world shines because the consciousness shines. See, tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. When it shines, everything else shines after that. Similarly, here also, when the consciousness shines, vibhati, then outer world of object shines, the inner world of emotions, thoughts, etc., the subtler world also shines. But then, important point is, if I want to realize it, then the outer world of object is not at all useful. It cannot be realized there. With the help of outer world of objects, I cannot realize the infinite consciousness or pure consciousness. By moving around and in the inner world of feelings and thoughts will not lead me directly to the consciousness. But when I consider I consider myself as I am, at present, though I consider myself as I am the body, still in this very body, if I pursue or if I continue the enquiry of who is this I am, then definitely this enquiry will reach me to that. So here, tat iha antikecha is indicated here, and pashyati pashyatsu iha eva, and it is further assured that he sees iha eva, in this very life, here in this world. He realizes that when he pursues this inquiry regarding this I am, at present, due to misunderstanding, he considers himself as I am the body. But when a right inquiry based on our teacher's guidance and the scriptures, we will find that in this very life, iha, atra, iha, iva, now and here, because the truth is here and now. And if I have to realize, I can't wait for the future. It can be realized here and now in this very body. In this very body, when it is said, because at present I consider I am the body. So when I consider I am the body, then take up the inquiry with the body, whether body can be the self, whether body can be the consciousness. Now, if you remember in our class earlier, for some text we have taken two verses of Ramana Maharshi as essential teachings of Ramana Maharshi. In that, one of these is Deham Brunmayavat Jadatmakamaham, if you remember this. So, as such, the inquiry is put up there, whether I am the body, whether I am the mind, and how it can lead to consciousness. There is another verse, and that verse tells us that it is in the heart. Here it says, Nihitam Guhayam is the last word, which tells us it is very much in the cave of the heart. Wherever this cave of the heart is referred, let us understand once for all, it is in the core of our intellect. Intellect is the core of our being. Mind is the outer to intellect, and body and sense organs are much outer. So when you say Nihitam Guhayam, the entire the truth of the Brahman, that is the topic. The truth of the Brahman. Sat, the earlier words, earlier mantra said. So this Satyameva Jayate, etc. When we go by the path of truthfulness, then the reality of Brahman is revealed to us. What is that reality? We have been so far seeing with reference to the seventh mantra, Bruhat Divyam Achintya Rupam Sukshmachatat Sukshmataram Vibhati. Durat Sudure, farther than the farthest, Tat Iha Antikecha. Tat Iha Antikecha. In this, within this body, Iha is used for this world. What is called Iha, Ihaloka, etc. is referred to the gross world of forms in which this body is included. So here in this very body, we will find it is in the cave of the heart that the Brahman resides. We will discover that. We will not discover in the outer world, nor in the inner world, but it is with myself. If I conduct a right inquiry about who am I, then definitely I will reach the state of Brahmanhood and become Brahman. So this is the, in short, indicative meaning of the entire mantra we have covered. Now we are going to our concerned paragraph number 6. We have discussed the fifth para. Farther than the farthest we have seen, and then we have also seen the fifth para, very important illustration of it is that which is the center everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. It is a circle. What is the circle? The reality of Brahman is a circle whose center is everywhere but circumference nowhere. So now this was the main discussion that we did in disguise of a question, discussing on the question. So this was referred by Swamiji only the first part of it, that center everywhere. Everywhere means in all the self-conscious being. In all the living beings, there is a center of consciousness, but there is no intellect to manifest. Only in the human being has got an intellect apart from the mind. Therefore, in the human intellect, there is consciousness, and this consciousness, being in the intellect, it is discovered in the very core of the intellect. Hrudaya kuhara madhye kevalam brahma matram. This is the indicative terms or clause given by Raman Maharshi in that essential words. Hrudaya kuhara madhye, in the cave of the heart, resides kevalam brahma matram. There the term used is kevalam brahma, what we referred in the early discussions here as Parabrahma, kevalam, absolute existence. Then this absolute existence manifests aham aham iti sakshat atma rupena bhati. Then this Brahman manifests in us, in the intellect, as I. I stands for self-consciousness. Aham aham iti sakshat atma rupena bhati. So our first discussion was about Parabrahma. The next was Paramatma, which is of the nature of Satchidatma, Sat and Chit, existence, consciousness. So there it is, Aham. So this Satchidatma in us is manifest as I. Aham aham iti sakshat atma rupena bhati. Bhati, here also vibhati, shines. So the self shines in I. Now this I is a basic technically called as aham spuranam. Pratasmarami hrudi sanspurat atma tattvam. That sanspuranam is I, and it is the manifestation or expression of atma tattvam. So this self in us, in the cave of the heart, which means in the very core of our intellect, in the depth of our intellect, as absolute existence. Then the same absolute existence manifests as existence consciousness, as self, and this self further manifests in the intellect as I. So thus it has come to I. Now here the avidya veils this I sense, and the individual is baffled, is confused regarding which is this I. He is self-conscious, all right. Every human being is self-conscious, but the self that he is conscious of, he is not aware which is the self he is conscious of. Now at present, the self that is conscious of is a limited being, limited by mortality, limited by sorrows, limited by ignorance and whatnot. So this limited being he considers I am. I am the body, I am the mind, etc. So this is due to the veiling of avidya. So when this aham, the sfuranam comes in the intellect, it is veiled there by avidya, and therefore the intellect cannot see this I am or his real sense of the term I because of the veiling, and then he misunderstands himself to be I am the body. Therefore, though he is self-conscious, he says I am, and I know that I am, but the I am that he knows is only body. So this aspect of mistake of identification is the cause that keeps him in bondage all the time. Now here it is said, in this condition where the individual is ignorant about his I amness, he has misunderstood the I am as body or mind. To such an individual, this statement that is made here in the 5th paragraph, that it is a circle whose center is everywhere. This clause, a part of the definition, is really encouraging. It says that this reality about the Brahman is in all self-conscious human beings as a spark or the spirit, like a spark of the fire. It is a spirit available, or it is a ray of the infinite light of consciousness, whatever level you can think of. But that center, the Brahman, is available as the center part of every self-conscious being. This is an important thing. So this center is in all the human beings, all self-conscious beings. There is a center of pure consciousness, and this is self-luminous. Therefore, it illumines the entire within, the world of objects, emotions, thoughts. All this is illumined by the pure consciousness. But then the definition continues, as we have discovered the other part of the definition. When it is center is everywhere, everywhere means not in the world, but in every self-conscious being. In the outer world, it is only the light illumining the form. In the inner world, it is only a reflected light of intelligence that is illumining the thoughts and feelings within the world within. But that which is reflected within and that which illumines all the forms of the outer world is itself available in the core of our being. That is what is said. That core of our being is called as the center. Center, if you want to have, you can say, auxiliary aid to contemplation on this, you can see that early morning there is a mist. In the dawn, at the dawn, there is a mist. And when sun rises, it is all condensated into various dew drops. Now, when these dew drops are there on all leaves, all flowers, etc., everywhere we find the dew drops condensated. So, that sun which has risen, it reflects entirely in every dewdrop. If you can see it, because it is very small, it doesn't mean that only part of the sun is reflected. A small bright dot in every dewdrop is fully reflected there. Therefore, it is said that the center of that sun of the self, Atma Bhanu, in Atma Bodh it is called Bodha Bhanu, Atma Bhanu, etc. So the self is like a sun who is one without a second, but whose reflections are in all the conscious intellect. Intellect is called as conscious. Mind is called as subconscious. And the yogis reach a state which is called as superconscious. Now we are not concerned with that. But subconscious and conscious, it only reflects in the conscious. Conscious is another name for intellect. So the consciousness in its all effulgence is reflected in all the hearts or intellects. Therefore it is said, whose center is everywhere. Everywhere, in a sense, in all the self-conscious being. And whose circumference is nowhere. This is the balance part of it. Therefore, this center, the light, the sun is reflected in all dewdrops, but its light is not limited. Light is reflecting everywhere. So every dewdrop reflects the light. The sun illumines. So sunlight illumines the entire creation, entire universe. But every, you can say, a pure surface, a pure equipment, pure conditioning reflects that sun. Therefore, it is said it is center everywhere. But as far as light is concerned, you will find that the sun is only one in the sky, but its light is everywhere in all directions. Similarly, the center of the self is in all self-conscious being, but its light of consciousness is not at all limited like a periphery of the circle. Therefore, its circumference is nowhere. The light is infinite. It is a mass of light, Swamiji has indicated earlier. It's a pure light, a mass of light, and it is everywhere. But that source of that all light is only one Satchidatma or Paramatma. This we have to appreciate. So we have covered this illustration, the balance aspect of this. And now we are coming to the close of the fifth para. In the fifth para, it is said, Nihitam Guhayam is the main term, the closing of the fifth para. The starting of the fifth para is mainly loaded with this simile of the circle and the center. And it indicated that each one of us has got a center. So from that reflection, he can fall back to reflected. What is reflected? Therefore, there is a link. The reflection or center in him is like a link which links you to the Brahman, provided the seeker inquires, who am I? If he has concluded that I am Mr. So-and-so, I am a human being, and I'm an individual or a person, then there is no scope. Because that person has got, individual has got ego I. He always said, I do, I did this and all that. And then ego I has further identified with BMI, like perceiver I, feeler I, thinker I. And he is already out in the world. He is involved in the world. For him, there is no scope. That link will not work. But suppose if he questions, in this very body, I say I am the body, it is okay, there is no problem if I say I am the body or I did this and I did that. All the functions of the body, if he identifies and says that he did it, there is no problem, provided he doesn't take it literally. If he really thinks that he is doing it, then he is sadly mistaken. But the question must come to him, then who is he in reality? And if he takes up the inquiry from the body onwards, then with the help of, we have seen this, Druk Drishya Viveka, what is seen and who is the seer? If this Viveka, the discrimination between seer and the seen, Druk Drashta and Drishya, the seen. By this Viveka, he can go from outer world seen by the eyes in the light of sun, moon or lamp. The eyes itself are illumined by the mind. Mind is also enlightened by the consciousness, reflected consciousness in the intellect, and it is the reflection that is responsible, the light that is responsible for, because of which I am conscious of thoughts in my intellect, feelings in my mind, sankalpas in my mind, etc. So I become conscious of thoughts because they are all illumined by the reflected consciousness or the intelligence in the intellect. So the intelligence in the intellect illumines the thought, then I become conscious of thought, then I identify with the thought and become thinker of the thought, and thus I go down the line. But here, when I become conscious of thought, you should question. Thought is seen, all right. How it is seen? What is the light for the thought? Outer light is denied. Within, in what light do I see the thought? And then he can reach the light of consciousness which illumines the thought for himself. Thus, he will be able to reach the intelligence in the intellect. Once he has come to the intelligence, that he is only the intelligence in the intellect, which illumines thoughts, feelings, perception, action, etc., then he remaining as a light illuminator, definitely he need not have any attachment or involvement in what it illumines, as even the light is not concerned what it illumines. But without light, no objects can be perceived, no feelings and thoughts could be made conscious of. So this idea, if it is appreciated, then the outer world is illumined by all pervasive pure light of consciousness. The ray of that same light reflects in our intellect, and that reflection is called intelligence in the intellect, and this reflection illumines the thoughts, world of my thoughts, feelings, etc., within the world. And with this idea, I go out and perceive the world. Therefore, the light of consciousness is working through both sides, outer world also, inner world also. But if I want to realize the very source of this light, the Brahman, then neither outer world will help me, nor inner world will help me, but I am the inquiry, self-inquiry will definitely help me, because it is this I am, aham iti sakshat atma rupena bhati. So I have to see, I have identified up to intelligence I, that is my identity. Now I should seek the source from where this light has come in the intellect, because intellect by itself is inert, insentient, mind is inert, insentient, body sense organs are inert, insentient, and how they are illumined, how they are enlivened. So they are enlivened by the light of consciousness. So what is the source of consciousness? Intelligence is an immediate source of consciousness, but intelligence in the intellect is not available the moment you go to sleep. So long as you are in the waking world, the intelligence works. But when you go to sleep, your body sense organs are denied. You are not conscious of body and sense organs. Therefore, the outer world of objects is denied. You are not conscious of that. And it is only the pure light of consciousness that illumines our dreams. Therefore, that intelligence also, since it has a beginning and an end, before waking hours, before waking up, it was not there. After going to sleep, intelligence will not be there, because it's only a reflection in the intellect. Therefore, it cannot be taken as an ultimate source of light. Therefore, then I set the inquiry about what is the source of the intelligence in the intellect. And there, the inquiry will take me to the self as available in me as pure consciousness. So this inquiry only leads me. Therefore, in this very body, which I am considering as I am the body, but if inquiry is conducted, it will reach me up to the intelligence in the intellect. And when I seek the source of intelligence, I will be led to the light of consciousness, infinite, objectless light of consciousness. So this kind of inquiry is suggested here when it is said it is the center everywhere. I have got the center of the self which can be useful for conducting the inquiry. Now we are coming to the last portion of this, and that is Nihitam Guhayam. So there it is suggested that so the rishis of the old have given us in this stanza the method of making their great theory a practical experience. The scripture says the truth is realized here in the cave of the heart. The technique has already been discussed earlier exhaustively and more than one place. So Nihitam Guhayam, in the core of my being, in the core of the heart or intellect, that is one indicated, and Iha Eva. So these two terms are important. Pashyatsu, Pasyatsvihaiva, Pashyatsu, Iha Eva. These are the three terms. Pashyatsu. So when he sees the source of intelligence in the intellect as pure consciousness, all pervading, etc., then that very moment, then and there, in this very life, here, so Pashyatsu, Iha means here in the Mrityu Loka, Iha Loka, and in this body, here, both they are representing that. Iha Eva, in this very body, in this very life, and this is the great wording that Iha Eva. Elsewhere, it is Atra, here, and now and here. Atra and here. Atra here. Atra here. So here and now is another wording for this, that the truth of the reality of Brahman is realized here in this very body, meaning in this very life, as in the core of our being, Nihitam Guhayam, in the innermost recesses of our intellect. So these two words are important. Now those who are attending the Vichara Sadhana Satsanga every Thursday, there we have seen that the teacher says it is not advisable to contemplate upon AUM independently or separately. Why it is not advisable? This is the key word here. What is the key word? Iha eva. The Upanishad assures you that if you conduct the right inquiry as per the guidance of the teacher and the scripture, you will reach in this very life the ultimate, the Brahman. When this is assured, the Upanishad assures, then the another Upanishad, Prashnopanishad there, which is Brahmana Upanishad, and this is Mantropanishad. This is in concise form, in short, the Mundaka Upanishad presents the truth, whereas in Prashnopanishad, the Mundaka Upanishad portions are elaborated, and there it was advised that the seeker should first contemplate or meditate upon A, U, and M separately, and then contemplate upon AUM together. And on these terms, Swamiji has commented, it is not advisable. Why? Because this is Omkara Upasana, and whether it is Omkara Upasana or it is a Vedantic sadhana, in both the cases, it is advised to be done lifelong. There is no course where it has a beginning and an end. That course is over, nothing is over. But if you pursue that, what is advised in the course, as your personal subjective sadhana, then definitely there are chances that in this very life you can reach. That is what the Mundaka Upanishad says. And seeing this, that when Upanishad guarantees you that you can reach in this very life, then that earlier advice in the Prashnopanishad to contemplate upon AUM separately, Viprayuktaha separately, a special case, and Anaviprayuktaha collectively. It is not wrong, but it is not advisable, because there the instruction was that each letter you meditate you should meditate lifelong till the end of your life, which means that 3 lives are spent in contemplating upon AUM, then another life for collectively contemplating upon AUM. So this is not advisable. The teacher says not advisable, and that time I referred in the class that this has reference to our present mantra that we are discussing on Tuesday, the 7th mantra, and this is the term Iha Eva, the Upanishad offers. Therefore, the teacher tells us it is not advisable to do individually on AUM or collectively on AUM. Both will give the results which will be you can say finite or limited. But when properly samyak, sanyukta, samyak prayuktaha, that is the term used there. Viprayuktaha, anaviprayuktaha, samyak prayuktaha. So first 2 terms, he said it's okay. It cannot be said wrong, you are doing wrong. Some benefits you will get, but those benefits will go to the egoistic individuality. Ego may realize, but then the Brahman cannot be achieved by that. Therefore, it's not advisable. Instead, samyak prayukta means rightly employed. This Omkar, the chanting and the contemplation upon that, when rightly employed, will definitely in this very life will reach us to the destination called as Brahman. And therefore, in this last part of the last para, we have seen 2 things. One is Iha Eva, the last wording is Pashyatsu, when the seeker, having seen this in this very life, Iha Eva, where Nihitam Guhayam, he discovers it in this very life, in the cave of the heart is the literal wording, and which we mean as in the core of our intellectual being, as intelligence and the source of intelligence, and finally the ultimate truth. So the reality of the truth is the self-effulgent Brahman. So to reach the self-effulgence itself is our job. To become the existence consciousness or Paramatman, Madatma Sarva Bhutatma, So the myself, self in me is the self everywhere. Not only that, there is one Paramatma covering the individual and the world. And that one Paramatma I am. This is the ultimate in individual seeking, and he seeks that in his own deeper recesses of the intellect through the technique of deeper contemplation. So this is what we have seen it, and I think there is a time for Sadahameva Vishnu मय्येव सर्वं परिकल्पितं च इत्थं विजानामि सदात्मरूपं तस्याङ्घ्रिपद्मं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम् तस्याङ्घ्रिपद्मं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम् ॐ श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः।